Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of PLA with myself, Nick and Bruno. We've got two questions today, as always. We'll do the first one with Bruno and then the second one with Nick. The first question, Bruno, is from an agent, and it's got to do with obviously agent guidelines. It does state as follows: if we have a tenant that took occupation prior to the new PPRA and did not sign a landlord disclosure, can we request that it be signed? It be signed now, as the disclosure states that it must be signed prior to the lease being signed. So maybe Bruno, just maybe go through what the new PPRA is, and obviously what a landlord disclosure then obviously is, and then you can provide us with the answer.
So the PPRA introduced a requirement that estate agents or property practitioners, as it refers to them in the Act, but specifically those dealing with properties and brokering the sale of properties or brokering the leasing of properties, are required prior to taking that mandate from a seller or landlord. They are required to have the landlord or the seller sign a document called a mandatory disclosure form that basically stipulates or discloses any issues with the property, so that as they market this property, either for sale or leasing, they are able to inform the purchaser or tenant accordingly. So this is to protect the rights of the consumer in the form of a purchaser or tenant. But this does not apply retrospectively. So what do I mean by this? Basically, when the Act came into play, it acknowledged the fact that obviously estate agents have been doing this for a really long time. And if they received a mandate from a landlord prior to the promulgation of the PPRA, there's absolutely no way that they would have been able to ask for the landlord to sign a mandatory disclosure form. So it doesn't apply retrospectively that now all of a sudden we need to go back in time and try and get all our existing mandates, mandatory disclosure forms signed. However, please bear in mind that the renewal of a lease, technically speaking, is still a new act, a new agreement that's going to come into play. So if you are renewing the lease on behalf of a landlord, in that instance, you would have to get the mandatory disclosure form signed by the landlord. There's no excuse for you not to. If he had signed one previously, as an example, and he wouldn't know anything more about the property, then it would just be a repetition of this. But since he hasn't, given that the mandate was prior to the promulgation of the Act, he would have to in this instance. Obviously, with sales, it's a very different story. You receive a mandate and you normally complete that mandate. So unless somebody decides to resell or a mandate has to be renewed at a certain point because it only lasts for a certain period of time, then arguably, yes, you would have to get them to fill in that form. But I mean, by now, there's no way that there's still sale mandates that are pending. They would either be new or not new, but again, they don't apply retrospectively.
Cool. So yeah, thank you, Bruno, there once again. Obviously dealing there with agents and the mandates, and once again, the estate agent guidelines.